Hey friends, ThatPsySquatch here. Today we're going to create and add our own custom item to the game. So let's get into it.
What?
Huh? Hey! Where? Okay peeps, so here we are in our IDE with a fresh Fabric 1.21 project. Now I know that there's 1.21.3 that's already out, but for the sake of this, we're just going to do it in base 1.21. Now the first thing that we want to do is we want to drill down our project right here to SRC. And then underneath that, we have our main project where we have our personal workspace as well as our resources. Now, the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to open up the Ruby mod class that we have right here. So we'll double click on that. Here really quickly, I'm just going to get rid of some comments. And this is actually all that we need for at least setting up the initialization of our class. But let me go ahead and try to explain this. So first, we are declaring our class, which is called Ruby mod. And this class is going to be implementing the mod initializer interface. Now, if we actually hit Control and click on this, we can see that this actual class in Fabric, this just does an onInitialize. And we'll get back to that here in a second. So if we go back to our Ruby mod class, first we have to set up two constants. This first one, public static final string. This is basically going to be a constant string, which is our unique mod identifier, which we've called mod ID. And then that is actually going to be set right now to Ruby mod. Next, we're creating a logger instance for our unique mod ID. And this is basically a way for us to help with like logging debug or informational messages. Basically, if we run into any issues, this could kind of help us debug things and figure it out. And then lastly, we have the onInitialize method, which is what I mentioned the mod initializer interface actually implements. And if we want to actually change that to override to like do our own things, we actually just want to call this override public void onInitialize. Right now, this is just empty. So the class is actually not going to do anything, but this is all that we need to essentially set it up. The easiest way to think of this is this class basically serves as our entry point for the mod. And so this is where we're going to be doing any of like the setup configuration or like startup or setup or like startup configurations, anything like that. Now, next up, we want to set up a class, which is basically going to handle all of our client specific logic. Now for that, we're just going to click here in Ruby mod or whatever your package name is called. And then we're going to right click new Java class. And we're going to call this Ruby mod client. Now here in this class, we have a publicly accessible class called Ruby mod client. This class is actually going to implement the client mod initializer. And then here, if we just hover over this, we could implement the method and hit OK. Now, just like the Ruby mod class with the mod initializer, this one is essentially the same exact thing, but for the entry point for the client specific logic, like as it mentions here, such as like rendering or integrated server tweaks. So again, this currently does nothing. We're kind of setting this up for some future things that we'll be doing in later episodes. But for right now, this is just our entry point for that. And speaking of entry points, we're actually going to have to set up an entry point for this. So if we go here to resources, assets, and then we have this fabric mod JSON file. If we open this up, we'll see that we have two entry points here, one for main and one for fabric data gen. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to add one more for the client. So if we just hit enter, that comma gets added there, which we need. And then we'll type in client, colon, and curly brackets. Nope. Not curly brackets. Brackets. And then in here, this is going to be the name of your workspace. So for example, in the Ruby mod data generator, it's net ThatPsySquatch Ruby mod and then Ruby mod data generator. For us, we are just going to do ThatPsySquatch. Oh, and we could just auto-complete it, Ruby mod and Ruby mod client. And with this, we're almost ready to just boot up the client to make sure everything is working, even though we don't have a custom item just yet. But before we do that, we actually want to drop down this example mixin class underneath Ruby mod mixin. We're going to go ahead and open that. And then if we control click here on the Minecraft server, this is going to open up. And now if you see this blue ribbon up here, what we can do to fix that is we'll go over here to terminal and we'll type ./gradle_w space gen sources. We'll hit enter on that. This is going to take like 30 seconds, maybe a minute. Okay, and build successful. And now since that is done, we can go up here to choose sources. And we'll now have this new file here for build 9 version 2 sources. We're going to go ahead and click that and hit OK. And now what this is going to do is this is just going to get us all the source material for the project. So this gives us better comments, just more information, which really just kind of helps out with development. And now with that, we should be good to actually boot up the client and make sure that everything is running. Again, we don't have any custom items just yet. This is just to make sure that the client works. So here under current file, hit the drop down, Minecraft client. We're going to go ahead and hit play. And this is going to take like 30 seconds to a minute for it to compile the project. But here in any second, we should actually get the Minecraft client to start booting up. And here it is. We're going to hear the narrator here in a moment.
Press enter to enable the narrator.
We'll go ahead and hit continue. And as you can see, we're on Minecraft 1.21 in Fabric, which is excellent. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and quit. And we're going to start implementing the classes for our custom item. Now to do that, let's go ahead and clean things up really quick. We'll close a bunch of these classes that we no longer need. And then what we're going to have to do, we're going to want to create a new class. So here under ThatPsySquatch, Ruby mod, we're going to hit new package. This we're going to call item. And then here under item, we're going to do new Java class, and we're going to call this mod items. Now here in this class, the first thing that we want to do is we want to set up a method for registering and logging our mod items. So to do that, we're going to do a public static void, I believe. And then we're going to call this register mod items. And then a curly brackets. And in here, we're going to call, we want to call our mod. So it's going to be rubymod.logger.info. And then we're going to do registering mod items for, and we're going to add an extra space in there so that the formatting looks all good. Next, we'll hit a plus. This is going to be Ruby mod. And then we want the unique identifier of the mod. We also want the name of the mod. Oh, no, sorry, the wrong part. We just want the unique identifier. And we'll close that off and semi-quotes right there. Excellent. Now, in order for us to actually call this, we're going to want to go back to our Ruby mod class. And then here under our override function for onInitialize, we're just going to call mod items dot register mod items. And there we go. And now we can call that on initialization. And so now back to the mod items. Next up, we want to set up a helper method for registering our mod items. And so to do that, we're going to have a private static. This is going to be an item. We're going to want to register item. And this is going to be a string. We want to return a name for that string. And then we want to return an item as well. We want to import this class. Thank you so much. And then here we'll set up another curly brackets, and we want to do return Now this is really important. We want to call registry, but not the Java RMI registry. We want the net Minecraft registry. So we'll tab on that. Make sure I grab the right one. Looks like I did. And then we want to call register. Now inside these brackets, we want to call registries.item. This is going to have an identifier of our Ruby mod with the unique ID. And then here is where we want to return the name and the item. Excellent. Now we want to do one last thing for actually registering our item. For this, we're going to call a constant. So let's see, public static final. This is also going to be an item. We're going to call this Ruby. And then this is going to be register item, returning a name of Ruby. This is going to be a new item and have new item settings. Now, one more thing that we want to do is we're actually going to want to add this item to our creative menu as well. So to do that, here underneath the register mod items class or method, we're going to call item group events and then modify entries event. This is going to be item groups.ingredients. And that's basically specifying the tab that the item is going to appear in the creative menu. And then we want to do register. From here, we need an entry point. So if we do entries, that should be good. And then here we want to entries, add Ruby. Excellent. Okay, so now we have our method for registering our items. We have our helper method for getting that information. And then we have our actual item registered. And lastly, we also have that item added to the creative menu. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need to set up the language support, basically the codex information for this new item. And this is a very important step. So over here in our depot, we have resources, assets, and Ruby mod. We're going to want to right click that Ruby mod and hit new directory. This is going to be called Lang, L-A-N-G. We want to click Ruby mod again, new directory. This is going to be called models, ELS. And then Ruby mod, right click, new directory. This is going to be called, not item, textures. And then underneath, and then on the models directory, we're going to hit new directory item. And then on textures, we're going to hit new directory item. Now to set up the language and location information for us, we'll go here to our Lang directory, right click new file. And this is going to be called, very important, it needs to be en_us.json. It has to be like that. And then in here, we're going to set up two curly brackets. And then this is going to be where we declare our Ruby item that we're creating. So for that, it's going to be item.rubymod.ruby. And then here is going to be the localized string that we're going to translate it to. Next, if we go back to our assets and then go to models and item, we'll right click item and then do new file. This is going to be called ruby.json. And then here in this file, we're actually going to, we need to parent this item to Minecraft item generated. Make sure we have a comma there at the end. And then we're going to call textures and curly brackets. And then here we're going to specify our layer 0 for our texture. And then this is going to be from our mod. So we want to call Ruby mod item Ruby. Okay, and now what this is going to do is on initialization, it's going to essentially grab the textures from this folder to render the item in the game. And speaking of this folder, what we're going to have to do, we'll open this and we'll grab our Ruby item that we created. And we're going to, whoops. We're going to drag this right into the textures item folder and hit OK to refactor it. And with that, we should have everything that we need to be able to jump into the game and see our brand new item. So we'll go here to, we don't need to go there. We'll go back up here to the top, Minecraft client, and we'll hit play. And we'll let this compile and do its thing. And really hope that we don't run into any errors. I don't think I messed anything up. All right. And here we are. So we're here in Minecraft 121, Fabric. Let's go ahead and hit single player. Let's set up creative. We'll just do peaceful for right now. New world is fine. Let's go ahead and create. And then if we open up our inventory, and if you remember, we wanted to put it under the ingredients tab. So if we click this, we can scroll down and we see our brand new item. And then also, as you can see, it's called Ruby instead of like Minecraft item Ruby, the debug name for it. And that's because of that English US localization that we created for it. So we could go ahead and we could just throw this into our hotbar. And we can see it in game, which is crazy. But there we have it, peeps. We have our brand new custom Ruby item added to the game. But with that, peeps, I'm going to call it here for the day. Now, don't forget, I'm going to have this project up on GitHub. So if you need any reference to the material or the information, I'm going to have it in the link down below. I also hope you really enjoyed this. I know this is a very different style of video than what we normally do. If you would like to see more, please let me know. Next time, I'm hoping that we'll do a custom block instead of a custom item. But until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next episode. Laters!